Good morning. Welcome to another Throwing Shade. A lot has happened since we were last together. I want to start out with a little news story that came out. It was in Kansas. It's been maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. The senator's name is Gene Solentrap. Now, Gene is a high-ranking Republican official in the state of Kansas. He led the police on a high-speed chase. Now, so he led the police on a high-speed chase. They threw out a nail strip to kind of flatten the tires. It got so serious. They threw out a nail strip to flatten the tires. He was able to avoid the nail strip, drive around it, and kept going. When they were finally able to stop his vehicle, he physically confronted the officers, berating them using all kinds of expletives and calling them Donut Boy, as they were finally able to restrain him and put him into the car so that he could be arrested. Now, of course, he has not faced any serious charges, but he did all of this while driving drunk. As an African-American male, a black male that lives in this country, my only question is, how is he still alive? If you imagine a scenario of someone like myself having engaged or performed in that same way. Now, there's skeptics who say that the law enforcement really isn't black and white. And to that, I have to respond that the Atlanta shooter, Robert Aaron Long, 18-year-old white male, killed 8 people, 6 of them Asian women. He was taken into custody alive. The young man Ahmaud in the Boulder, Colorado shooting killed 10 people, and he was taken into custody alive. Kyle Rittenhouse has actually received donations from law enforcement while he's incarcerated for a double murder and felony assault charge, but he was taken into custody alive. Here is the thing. If you take those 3 incidents, and I know it's a small pool, but then you take Jacob Blake. His violation was arguing with his family, and he was shot 7 times in the back. George Floyd was passing what may or may not have been counterfeit $20 bills. We do not know because it was never able to go to trial. Tavon Martin was killed while walking. Arby Armour was killed while jogging. Breonna Taylor was killed while sleeping, and Tamir Rice was playing on a playground. And from the moment the police arrived, from the time that Tamir Rice was fully alive to fully dead, was 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Dante Wright was a traffic stop, and even when the results have not been fatal, the black officer who was serving in the armed force, who was pepper sprayed at a convenience store, it would be reasonable to conclude that had that been in a more remote area, the result may have been quite different. Indeed, it could have very well been fatal. When we look at law enforcement in the country today, there's no question that it needs to be changed. And for most of us, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that there's a discriminatory element in the enforcement of the law. I will say this. I had a young man, well, an older gentleman who I have great respect for as a member of my church, who told me that the reason more black people are killed in police stops is because more black people commit crime. I had given that about a second of consideration when I found this. What if the information recorded by police officers is tainted with bias. If that's the case, then it is possible that the warrants that are issued for African American men are also tainted by bias, which means the traffic stop that resulted because of a warrant that was tainted by bias, by an enforcement that is tainted by bias, with a deadly result, is a problem that we need to address. I was able to find recently the original report that was done. If the warrants issued are unreliable, then the traffic stops and subsequent actions are suspect. This is the police bulletin from that was recorded by the Minneapolis Police Department in regard to the George Floyd incident. He was ordered to step from his car. After he got out, he physically resisted officers. Officers were able to get the suspect into handcuffs and noted he appeared to be suffering medical distress. Officers called for an ambulance. He was transported to Hennepin County Medical Center by ambulance, where he died a short time later. We all saw the video. What happened in that video is not what is recorded here. What if the very beginning of each of these instances is tainted by a bias that results in these deadly confrontations that African American men are having with the police? What if it's as simple as getting people to be honest and unbiased in their work? What if it's only that? What do I know? I'm just throwing shade. Thanks for being with me. I look forward to seeing you next week.